So anyway, hey, aloha.
Yeah. Aloha.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to this. I wrote a book, as you probably know, Family and Friends, and I documented about 540 people, and I wrote, about our trip, our journey from France to India, and our surfing adventures in France. So I kind of want to kind of go over it with you because it was such a incredible time in my life. Just think, I was 18, and how old were you when I met you? It must have been in the early 20s.
Oh, I guess 19. I think we figured out that I was like a year ahead of you. But I don't know. No, maybe even 2 years because 2 years in age. But I think you had skipped ahead a year in school or something.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think you were a couple of years younger than me. I was let me think about it. Um Jeez. Yeah, I wasn't right out of high school. I was about a year, maybe a year out of high school, not
Oh,
even a
uh-huh.
year. So, and that was 1969. What year are we talking about? 1970, right?
Oh, this is not 1971.
Okay, 71. Yeah, so I graduated in 69, so that puts me at about 18, 19, I guess.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Look at the calendar, but whatever.
Yeah,
There we
yeah,
were.
yeah. I just graduated from high school. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. And hadn't you skipped a year ahead in school or something? I think
No,
for
no, no, I didn't do that. Actually, I was left behind because I started school usually later because there's a timeline. I was born Christmas
Oh,
Eve,
okay.
and I'm a twin, and so my mom didn't want me to struggle in school. Being the youngest
Oh,
one.
right. Yeah, I know some. I have some friends who did that.
Uh, so
Sure.
worked out real well. Yeah, I remember in France, I was staying for a while across the street from that campground in the forest, and and one day, fortunately, I bumped into you, and you said, "Hey, yeah, well, why don't you come
Yeah.
across the street to the campground?" uh, there's hot showers
Yeah. I
there.
mean, that was what better accommodation, I thought I was really bummed because I couldn't really find a place like a hotel or something, at least a cheap place. Because all the tourists were there. All the French tourists are on vacation when I got there in August. But
Uh-huh.
this, I think it was the guy who sold me the car had a tent, and that worked out so well. It was beautiful. It was a great experience.
Uh-huh.
I I still remember the surf there. It was pretty amazing.
I think that was one of the last years of surfing La Bar because they put a harbor in there. Isn't that too bad?
No kidding.
Yeah,
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 typical.
yeah. Remember, we
Yeah.
used to paddle across the jetty to that other spot. That was pretty good. With it. Remember
Right. Yeah, on the other side of the jetty. Yeah,
the other side
like
of the jetty. Yeah, yeah. I remember at times we had that.
I used to live in Long Beach, Alamedas Bay, and we used to paddle across the channel, Alamedas Bay Harbor or whatever, and across to Seal Beach and surf at the river usually, Ray Bay, they used to call it.
Oh,
And
Red
then,
Bay. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, so I was very used to climbing on the rocks and going through that whole thing.
Uh-huh.
I used that since I was a little kid. I was reminded what you were saying there about how, as a surfer growing up, in Long Beach, the neighborhood there where all my high school friends surfed. I mean, it was like I had friends that were from ages ranging from 2 years younger to probably 2 or 3 years older. And of course, the older guys kind of were a little bit. They were usually better surfers. So, but still, I was part of the bigger group of you know crazies, I guess, hippie surfers, pretty much.
Yeah.
I wrong road with LSD in high school. What about you? I guess you were straighter, a straighter arrow.
Yeah, well, no, I only, my body is super sensitive, so I only had LSD once. I had peyote once.
Yeah.
And, even with marijuana was too strong for me. Yeah, my electrical system for my body, it can't handle drugs or alcohol. It just
Yeah,
can't.
lucky you.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a good way to live.
yeah, yeah. And I remember at the time, it was kind of ironic that you and I were probably one of the only surfers who didn't do drugs at the time. Remember, we went all the way to Afghanistan and we didn't have anything.
I know, wasn't that weird? Being in Kabul and having all those guys smoking hashish all around us,
Uh-huh.
And I probably high on the fumes, but I was determined not to again fall into that old pattern of mine of just doing drugs and then more drugs and then even wanting more after that.
Uh-huh.
So I was with LSD. I was the opposite of you, man. I didn't do it once. I did it 70 times, more than any of my in my peer group, who also were tripping every weekend virtually.
Uh-huh.
We'd take LSD and go to rock concerts. That was the usual thing in Hollywood. And and even we'd even go on weeknights, on school nights, go to the Whiskey A Go Go but boy, the weekends in LA were, in the larger LA, there's always good rock music going on somewhere, at least back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Do you
So
remember that?
I just with the drugs, I had to do it more than anyone else, and I'm sure a lot of what I was taking wasn't really LSD. It was probably laced with speed, some sort of methamphetamine type substance that just got you buzzed, but wasn't really the psychedelic experience that people think about necessarily.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so
You
there
remember
we
that?
are. I don't do dangerous drugs. I do smoke pot though every
Uh-huh.
day.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And dangerous drugs, alcohol. I don't drink every day actually. In fact, I quite remarkably, I guess. I mean, is that I can go for weeks at a time without drinking. In fact, just 3 months ago here in Thailand, because of COVID-19, they closed all the bars. There's just no alcohol. You couldn't even, well, for a while you could buy it in a 7-Eleven, but they stopped that too. And just total lockdown and for months, and it didn't bother me at all.
Uh,
As long as I've got some grass to smoke or whatever. That's kind of my go-to, I guess. And I don't know. I guess I'm, in the bigger picture, in the spiritual picture, maybe I'm living under a dark cloud of denial. I really, in some aspects in my life, I did very well. Becoming a doctor was a great accomplishment. I'm considered a grandfather of internal medicine. I'm a diplomat of the American Board of Internal Medicine. And based on that one credential, I could still go back to America and get a job. But the problem is I'm infirm now. I have an irregular heartbeat and I have to take pills and I'm slower than most people because of it. And
uh-huh.
anyway, and I just got burned out, really. I had an occupational burnout, I think it's called.
Most doctors get that, don't they?
What's that?
Most doctors get that, I think, burnt out, because your hours are
That doesn't
insane.
happen to everybody. I think like my second wife, Blanca, she's from Argentina. She's a couple years younger than me, but she's still working, probably 80 hours a week. She's a very dedicated pediatrician in San Diego. And I was doing the same gig, but I couldn't keep up with it. I didn't have the motivation. I didn't really have the kind of inner wherewithal, inner strength that doctors have to keep doing what they're doing. I wasn't really that. After I got through all the training and got all my credentials and whatever licenses and whatnot, I went to California and I wanted to surf again. I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to have off, and that's what I did. And I was on this kind of schedule. I was a kind of a dream schedule for a surfer. I go to work either at 10 a.m. or 12 p.m. and work till either 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. And so I had the morning to myself. I could go surf in the morning, even on work days.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I was working about 35 hours a week. So
Uh-huh.
it was cool. And but I still, it seemed like too much for me. They kept putting me to work on, oh, we want you to work on Saturday and Sunday, maybe 4 or 5 weekends per month, but it was just enough to throw me off. Are you still with me?
Yeah, I'm still with you. Yep, yep.
Okay, the screen went black as if it matters. But anyway, so I remember getting angry because I wanted to go to the football games, to the Charger games, which were happening like just down the street. I'm working on like about 4 blocks away from the, they called it the Murph, I think it's Petco Park now or something, where the Chargers used to play.
Uh-huh.
And it was just great fun going to the football games on Sunday, but you can't do that when you're working on Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, I have a laundry list of problems I had working as a doctor, and when I developed my health problem, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And hey, I just need to stop.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah. So,
so,
you remember that French bakery, in the mountains there? Remember that one?
oh yeah, I remember the bread was so good. That's still in my mind's eye is the way to live. The way the French do, and have
Uh-huh.
all the good fresh food available. You know.
Yeah, that was amazing. I remember
Wow.
the first time we could smell the bread baking about a mile away. I remember that in the forest.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal. Oh gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. That was pretty good.
And the time that remember we
We're kind of vaguely about having Aussies around, and one of the things that stuck with me through the years, especially living in Hawaii and stuff, and now even in Thailand, I come across quite a few Aussies. But anyway, was I seem to remember. I don't know. You might not agree or even remember me saying as much, but it seemed like the Aussies, they were always together and always having the most fun.
Yeah, they
Whereas
were. Yeah,
we
exactly.
we American surfers are pretty low key and kind of keep to ourselves and not, wouldn't necessarily meet that night in the bar and stay out till 2 a.m. drinking beer, like animals and shit. So, but a lot of Aussies, including a couple that are pretty close friends, become over the years here in Thailand. They're very they're very social, very kind of party oriented, and it's probably a wonderful place to live.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That and
I
you know
guess
the
we,
Argentinians are that way
we
too.
Americans could learn from other countries in some ways, and but anyway, different people, whatever,
You know,
different
Art,
life.
don't you think Argentines are that same way too? I spent time in Argentina before in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, my second wife Blanca, she's from Argentina.
Uh-huh.
She went to school in Buenos Aires,
Buenos. Okay.
and
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. Anyway, she came up and lived in Miami for a couple of years and was working, I think, as a nurse, but she was undocumented. She didn't have papers, and then she got her papers straight. I don't know. It's kind of, there was a marriage in there somewhere, and then, but we met when we were in residency, and yeah, and one thing led to another. Actually, it was like on our first date, she got pregnant. I
Oh,
don't know first, but it was one of our early on, and
uh-huh.
then it became a case of, well, I think we should have the kid. I mean, and the only complication was I was already married to to number one at the time, so but it seemed like the moral thing, to me at the time that and Blanca had actually, she told me that she'd had 3 or 4 abortions at that point, and you know, it just was something that she had to do. But you know, on the other hand, she didn't exactly feel totally right about it, you know.
Mhm.
And so, well, let's just have the kid, you know. I love you, so. And anyway, it was, you know, and that's kind of the tragic side of my life. Actually, we had 2 kids together, and neither of my kids now, they really don't know me that well. I had some problems after that, and a little bit of, think the falling out after getting divorced was a bit too much for the kids. My son was about 8 or 9 years old. My daughter was about 4 or 5 years old, and we just didn't really see much of each other after that. I'm still in touch with my son. He talked about even coming over here to Thailand in the near future,
Mhm.
but quite worked it out. And it's a bit complicated for me to go back home because yeah, I don't really have a good place to like a place to stay, you know,
Yeah.
or even a
Yeah.
residence at this point. And it's just the last time I did it, well, it was in 2010 anyway. Um, and that at that time, I had a lot of. I mean, it was just very expensive all the way around for me, you know, and very difficult staying in. I stayed in kind of a flea bag motel in Pacific Beach near where I was living, which was okay, you know, but it just after I think I was there for about 3 months. I really, you know, ended up spending a lot of money.
Mhm.
And then I was eating across the street. There was an In and Out that I liked, and I would, you know, at least one meal a day from In and Out because it was good, cheap and good, you know, but probably not that healthy in the long run, you know,
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
that way.
Uh-huh.
And I still remember there was a 7-Eleven store right on the corner, right near this In and Out, and they had the highest prices you could ever believe, you know, and.
Huh.
But getting to the market required a bus ride, and that was a bit. It was just there was a market about a mile down the road towards the beach, you know. But it just, you know, having to get on and off the bus, or just a long walk, you know, to me. And I'm such a lazy guy, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, listener,
I'm still
what
here.
happened? You became what? What did you do after
Af-
India?
After India, I don't know if I told you, but I hitchhiked from Kenya to South Africa, and
Oh,
it's
right,
not,
you made it. Good. Yeah.
yeah, and in South Africa, I spent time in Cape Town. Maraji
Yeah.
was going to go for the first time ever to South Africa. So they sent me to Cape Town to set things up. So I met 2 incredible people, a guy named Chris Parker, who's an incredible surfer, and another guy named Nigel Fairhead, who was married. So he lived in this old, Nigel lived in a 16th century church. So every day I would go to the university. Just think I was only, by then, yeah, I was 19 years old then. And so then I went to the university, and so I started telling people, you know, that Marathi was going to come to town. And first I spoke outdoors, and then uh, the university liked me so much. They said, "Hey, we're going to give you a room where you can use it for whatever you want." So anyway, to make a long story short, they had a program there at the university, and 5,000 people showed up.
Wow.
Yeah, so
How many did you say? Did you say 9,000?
5,000.
Oh, 5,000. Wow. Well, God, it's, I think President Trump would be proud.
Yeah. And I just think I was only 19 years old, you know. So I felt like, wow. You know, ever since, you know, to be honest, I love to meditate. Oh, you know, that for me, surfing, passion, surfing, meditation, and cooking, and writing has been my passion, throughout my life. Uh, I haven't been involved, in the movement in probably 30 years, but I still got, sweet memories, and I still meditated every day. For me, it's like
Wow, that's great.
for me, it's like going to the movies. So, and I've been a
Huh.
software engineer, for over 35 years. I work for an observatory in Maui at Haleakala, and on top of the mountain. So, and I had
Yeah, Haleakala Crater. I've been there. What were you doing?
a software engineer. I
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Imagine uh, this is the early 90s. So a guy, we were tracking satellites. And so imagine a person, his responsibility, or he had a switch to move it clockwise or counterclockwise. And he was supposed to move the dome so the telescope could point in the sky. Well, a lot of times
Uh-huh.
during a high important pass, the dome operator at 2 o'clock in the morning, he's in a snowsuit, mind you, so it's freezing up there in the middle of the winter at 10,000 feet. So he had a tendency to doze off or fall asleep. And so every time that happened and we missed the pass, uh, the Air Force would ding a Boeing, a certain amount of money. So that this happened over and over. And finally, my boss said, Richard, we got to fix this, and we want you to do it. So I did that. So it was a great job.
Wow.
Being I had a lot of surfers
Yeah.
around me. So I surfed the North Shore of Maui, a place called Hokipa. And as a real known, great surfing spot. I was
Yeah.
right ways as highest telephone poles, and this was in my early 40s. So I was in top shape. Yeah, those were incredible times.
Yeah. It's funny. It reminds me how when I look back on my years of working and whatever, the best job, when I think back to the best job I ever had, I was in Hawaii. I was working at the Honolulu airport, and I was moving baggage for the airlines. I'd get out there on the ramp, and the TWA guy or United guy or Pan Am guy or whoever they'd be responsible for taking the bag off the airplane, but then I was supposed to pick it up and then deliver it to, because most of these guys, they're coming from Maui or Kauai or whatever, and then they're doing the interline transfer. That was our specialty. So we'd have to pick up all the interline bags, and while the customer was going from Hawaiian Airlines and then going and to get on TWA or whatever, that was a big main direction of baggage, was going that way and back to the U.S. mainland. We take the baggage and deliver it to the airlines. But it went both ways. And anyway, it was started as a summer job. When I get out of I was going to college there, right, and get out of class, and then when I got back in school, they made it part time, and I just had 20 hours a week working on the weekends or sometimes on the weeknights, and it was like a union job, so I got union wages, and then any time over like 40 hours a week is overtime, so and it was perfect for me on the holidays, like Christmas and New Year's and that. I was off from school, so I'd be making the big bucks working overtime hours and getting time and a half, and then all the legal holidays were double time and a half. I did
Oh,
that for about 4 years while I was in school, and I look back and I think, God, I had it made there in the shade, and why I ever left Hawaii. I could still be working in that job. That's in my mind's eye. Of course, it's ridiculous, but
mhm.
anyway, it was a wonderful thing, and but I had this kind of desire to make something of my life. I wanted to go to medical school. I couldn't get into school in Hawaii, so I went studied overseas in South Korea eventually to get my medical degree.
Hmm.
And so anyway, but yeah, I think I think that was my fork in the road. If I just had not had that desire to go to school, which seemed far-fetched at the time. At least my parents thought it was crazy. And but I just thought it can work, and I don't want to just be a surfer all my life. I need something more than that somehow.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and then, I really treasure the opportunity I had to do all the, like the training, the reading and stuff. And I don't know, for me, it just seemed like a lot. When I was looking before, and it's like anything, probably you felt the same way before you went up to Haleakala Crater, to do your thing there was, boy, it seems like an impossible task. How am I ever going to wrap my arms around this? But in the end, you figure it out and get it done. It takes time, but
Yeah.
and I didn't have the brain power, I think, to be honest, though, to really be a really good doctor. And maybe that's one of I guess the background explanations for why I ended up with the burnout, is that I really wasn't qualified. I was overmatched by my career, and I was pressed to work harder than I really wanted to or was capable of or something.
Uh-huh.
So that's just not a good situation at all. On the other hand, if you do and you feel thrilled about it and you're thrilled to help and you don't even care if you get paid, well, that's what real doctors are made of, and I don't think there are that many left,
Yeah, I
honestly.
don't know. Especially right now. Oh my gosh, I feel sorry for these doctors. Oh gosh, especially in New York City and Florida and Arizona. Oh my gosh, a total nightmare. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. That was the first thing I thought of is about the protective equipment. It's horrifying to think that this, like the doctors in Italy and the nurses, I mean, everyone was running out of this PPE and stuff. I just thought that's horrific. And I know my friend Ian was saying, oh, that's their job. They have to go to work. But no, come on, you know. And pretty much it's impossible. I remember one horrifying night that I was on call at Hurley Medical Center where I was training, and I was on the medical team and they call us for cardiac arrests, and I was like the team leader because I was a senior resident or whatever at that point. So anyway, we got called into the burn unit,
Oh my
and
God.
here we try to conduct the cardiac arrest when I mean they're just everything. They're paranoid about germs in there, and
Hmm.
so it really put harsh restrictions on what any of us could do to help the guy who's had this, was having a heart attack or whatever.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked like he was going to die. And in the end, he didn't make it, thanks to me. Kind of. I mean, I remember feeling so helpless. I still kind of feel helpless about it, but it was one of those things. He's a fireman and I can't remember, but he had like 70%, you know, wounds over like second and third degree burns over 70% of his body. And I don't know exactly what the rule of thumb is, but that's a lot more than most people can survive from when it gets to burns get that expensive. There just isn't enough tissue left to graft over the burns. You don't
Right.
have enough tissue to cover up the burn wounds, all of them anyway. So inevitably they get these horrendous infections, and it's it's kind of useless. It's like people with end stage renal disease, and then they end up on dialysis. They need it 3 times a week, hemodialysis 3 times a week, with a diet where they can't even eat anything with salt or sugar in it. This might as well just die.
Yeah.
It's sad, you know.
Oh.
And I don't know. It's just one of those things, I guess.
Mhm.
We're fighting. I think humanity, and as individuals, we humans are trying to fight our way out of a paper bag to get a handle on our health, and it's really all going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, but my feeling about this whole thing is Mother Nature shut down the whole world, and told us to go to our rooms, and ponder and think about what our actions are. That's that's my personal opinion. I think, here's where I think,
Yeah,
Peter, the more diverse we are from nature and from ourselves, the more chaotic it becomes. We have, our current, political affairs in America is so far out of touch of reality. Just every day, you know, the our the president and administration, countless things during the day. If the current administration just did one, that they would have been impeached. Yeah, I don't know. Need I say more? Because you understand what I'm talking
yeah.
about.
Well, it's not just the current president. I mean, I was listening to a program this morning on RT Russia television, but that's one of my favorite channels actually. But this guy was talking about, it's a program called The Corporate Coup d'etat. I think it was, so that's sort of a RT documentary, but it is about how over the last 5 presidents, the corporate world, let's say, has been slowly but surely grabbing the reins of controlling the politics that rule the day in America. And they were saying, like, of Trump, well, as long as he cuts the business point of view, as long as Trump cuts their taxes and he, doesn't come down too hard on anyone, and they were saying like that. Anyway, it's like a dilemma, for example, with the drug companies, they want to bring big pharma is a big part of the stock market. I'm
Right,
not sure, but 20% of the GMP depends on these big pharma. These big drug companies, right?
right,
And if Trump is saying, well, I'm going to lower the price on drugs, but if he lowers the price that these big pharma companies get for their drugs, then guess what? The GNP is going to go down. The stock market is going to go down for sure, for sure.
yeah,
So really, Trump is in that issue. He's not going to move. He's got enough pressure on him, and he's enough into the billionaire club himself.
right,
And
right.
when Talking Head was saying how it's like eight different individuals who are just mega rich, multi-rich guys, and then the layer of super rich people right underneath them, maybe the top 0.5% of America, I don't know. They're the ones they're getting all the benefits, and how this, like when Trump came into office, he lowered taxes in the first year or something, the big
Yeah,
rollout, lower, cut. I don't know what. Oh no, just tax cuts,
task cuts,
and
exactly, from
it
36
all
down
went
to
to
20.
it
16
all went to
points.
rich people.
Yep, yeah, yeah.
I mean, the corporations, they um they got a lot of the money. Like Jeff Bezos, remember he got divorced and he suddenly wasn't the richest guy in the world, but he is now after the Trump tax cuts. He's again the richest guy in the world, and he's made some like $60 billion, I guess, between underpaying his workers and
Mhm.
overutilizing the U.S. Postal Service,
Uh-huh.
and one example of how the big business, they were saying how like the big corporations, let's say, they if they get a big tax break, it should be good, like Boeing aircraft, okay, they get a tax break. They got one just recently, bail out Boeing and you know tr- and okay, they have to do it because they're saving the jobs, and that means they're going to save the tax revenue that will theoretically come in later from the workers once they get their jobs back, you know. So it's better to save Boeing than to let it go under, you know, and go through bankruptcy, right? But the thing is, we give Boeing all this money. I don't know how much exactly Boeing got, but the CEOs of the corporation are under no obligation to really give it to their workers to hire more people, or, you know, and they end up, whatever they get from the government, they put a lot into buying stock buybacks. You know, they buy back
Right.
shares,
Yep. Oh, come
and
on.
that makes the company richer. You know,
Yeah.
for sure. Stock prices go up. And what happens when the stock prices go up? The CEO greatly increases his compensation package because he's the guy who was in charge when the stock price went up, you know?
Yeah.
And so these CEOs, they want to pay, of course, they want to pay themselves first before they're going to start worrying about jobs and stuff. It's there's nothing wrong with the system, you know? I mean, and I think in a way, I don't know if Trump really started out like he wants to fix it or not, but it seems impossible to grab the reins from the powers that be, you know. I try not to get involved in it too much, you know. I think back, and I remember when Trump was running, a couple of my friends kind of accused me, "Oh, you like Trump, huh?" You know, and I started to fall into that, and then but when I stop and think, really, you know, all my life I've never really liked any of our presidents. I've always been dissatisfied, you know. I
Yeah.
voted for Thoreau, and I think that was the last time I actually voted, you know. And it doesn't, we don't have any control over it really anyway. So
Yeah.
I beyond our, you know, why worry too much? Although I don't know, nowadays it is getting kind of worrisome with the
Right.
fall of the dollar and stuff.
You want to hear an interesting fact about Jeff Bezos? The average worker would have to work 8.9 million years in order to make enough money that Jeff Bezos has. 8.9 million years.
Yeah.
that that's sad, you know.
Yeah.
And the 1%, they own more money than 90% of the population in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, gosh, this is a um, definitely, but I definitely have hope for humanity. You know, it's going to take years. You know, we're just on the, you know, but personally, I think it takes about 1,000,000 years for for a civilization to grow up. We're still in the beginning stages. You know, either a civilization grows up or they blow themselves up. That's kind of like the two ways of the coin, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. Well, do you believe in global warming and climate change and all that?
Oh yeah. Oh definitely. Yeah. Of
Certainly
course.
not really under human control so much. What
Well,
about that? Will derail humanity in the end? I'm
well.
just being the antagonist, or, you know,
Uh,
antagonist.
you know, but basically, you know, I think there's two problems. One is man-made. You know, definitely there's global warming when it comes to what man does. You know, pollutes all CO in the air. But also the Earth goes through cycles. The Earth needs a cold cycle in order for, let's say you have a fish tank, and you have to clean out the fish tank, I don't know, you know, once every 2 months, 3 months, in order to revitalize so the
Yeah.
fish can live. And it's the same thing, you know, when we have the extreme cold, you know, like around 1600, you know, and every, you know, it happens maybe every 400 500 years. You know, there's freezing, you know, global freezing, and
Yeah.
basically that is meant, you know, to kind of to restore the environment. You know, first they have global warming, so basically on the poles, you know, it starts melting, you know, the glaciers. the glacier waters, then get circulated around the world. There is then usually a period, for a small one lasts maybe 10 years. And then when you come out of it, the oceans are getting restored. It's like all, the reefs all around the world, the coral is all dying, due to many.
Yeah, I know about that.
So,
Yeah, and apparently it's because the water temperatures are rising. That's one of the factors, I think.
yeah,
And so you know what I've seen a couple programs recently about it's basically human activity is burning rainforests in not only the Amazon rainforest but also in the Congo and
yeah,
also in Indonesia, and they're burning the forest down so they can put plant crops for profit and stuff. Whether it's palm oil or coffee beans or
mhm,
um, you name it, and but because I mean, and especially I saw this one about the Congo just recently, and they're tearing down the lumber at it, and it's killing all these endangered species, or at least I mean you know what I mean, it's putting them
yeah,
into a
yeah.
hard way.
The gorillas are gone, the chimpanzees, all the incredible
Yeah,
animals. Yeah, oh yeah,
and,
definitely.
and it's totally uncontrolled, really.
Hmm.
Uh, like in Brazil, they harvest the palm oil and they turn it into actually palm oil is in all the processed food nowadays.
Oh yeah, right.
Those ingredients that anything with fat in it, if it has to be, well, anyway, if I don't know, somehow it's used by the food companies to represent fat or to protect it or preserve it. I'm not even sure palm oil, but
Hmm.
it's in whatever has anything that comes in a package with a label on it that has fat in it. If you read down, it'll have palm oil. But anyway, apparently the oil is processed not so unlike like regular oil. I mean, like oil, the fossil fuel type oil that they pump out of the ground, petroleum
Hmm.
oil, and so anyway, and then it ends up on the palm oil derivatives, or at least the crap that they don't use, the chemicals that they use to process the palm oil to get the palm oil out of the plant or whatever. Those chemicals end up in the water supply and stuff. That in other words, the companies that are harvesting, they're doing the burning and then they move in with their companies and making all kinds of insane profits selling palm oil, but they're not really doing it in an environmentally conscious way.
Okay.
In the
Yeah,
same way, I mean, China, I'm sure China, and I'm sure Americans do it too, dumping so much plastic in the ocean, and that's not biodegradable. It's
okay.
like when you say, oh yeah, we're gonna go through a cycle of rejuvenation. I don't know that once all the life in the ocean is quenched, then maybe just be sharks, and
Yeah.
that'll be it.
Uh-huh.
Still
Yeah.
be surf, maybe. I don't
Uh-huh.
know. We'll have
Yeah.
to go out there like a sort of a protective suit, like a spaceman kind of that, so you don't get bit by all the sharks.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Well, I can imagine.
humanity is sawing the branch that we're sitting on.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's good
Uh,
that we can both kind of laugh about it because anyway,
yeah.
we're I'm sawing my own branch as we speak.
Okay. Yeah. Oh gosh. Uh, Definitely interesting. Yeah. Unfortunately, we could talk about the ways of the world forever. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But
Yeah, I think about my surfing life all the time. I mean, and there's some things that I remember, and then when I stopped to think things through carefully, I realized, boy, it's almost like a dream now because I don't exactly remember it the way it actually happened. Like I mean, I'll remember certain things about a day. Like I'll go out. Well, I used to surf at New Break all the time in San Diego, right? This is back when I was in like high school, college years, right? And
Mhm.
so I can remember being out on a really big day, and I still remember it. But then I was talking with a friend of mine who was also there, and we put our story or facts in order, and I thought, well, gee, anyway. But so it's funny how we remember things. But boy, Hawaii is just if you must have spent. Oh well, of course you were in, like you said, on Maui. Um, yeah,
Oh yeah,
uh,
incredible surf there. My
yeah,
favorite wave was a place called Pakokalo. It's just right outside Kahului, the harbor.
yeah.
Imagine
Must
having
be a left for you, huh? Is that a left breaking?
yeah, it's a left. It's a reef break, but it breaks along a small point. So
Uh-huh.
on a good day, you can get like you know, 15 to 20 foot faces. And
Wow.
it's probably the best wave I ever ridden. That for me, besides Chicama in Peru, I went there on a trip once for a month. That's the longest left in the world, Chicama. Yeah,
Wow.
that wave, you can see probably about 15 to 20 waves breaking all along the point.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds beautiful.
Uh, yeah, so yeah, definitely surfing is still in my blood. Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I really, it's a marvel to me that like my son who's he's like 30 years old now. But he, I tried to get him into it, but he surfs a bit, but he didn't go at it with like we did when we were kids.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Somehow we were lucky enough that when we were kids, spending all day at the beach on the weekend, going out, leaving the house early and staying out for hours, and then and I live near the beach. Why not? My parents were totally down with it. They thought it was probably good for me.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
so, but these days, I don't think most kids don't have that luxury where they live close to the beach and they have time on the weekends where they're not, and I think my two kids, they couldn't get past their iPhones to do anything, even still. Well, actually, my daughter she's quite an accomplished. She's doing a PhD at NYU right now, so, and she's published poetry and stuff. So she's quite energetic, I guess, like her mom.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's
Um,
cool. Yeah.
but my son is he's not. I don't think he's really doing much of anything. He's been to Argentina a bunch of times,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of cool. I both of my kids are fluent, speak Spanish fluently. I remember you speak Spanish well too. I remember that was one of
Yeah,
your
that's
strong.
one of mine. Yep. Uh-huh. And I lived two
Yeah,
years in Mexico, in the 70s. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Actually, I kind of really love the South American culture. There's such a family and friends and an environment. I like the countries that chill out. Just in the States, we're such neurotics here.
yeah. Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, Hawaii's different that way.
Yeah, Hawaii's
And
totally. Yep. Yeah.
my second wife, Blanca, she certainly reflected that kind of zest for life. And you see that right away that it's not just one person, but all the Argentinians seem to have this energy.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's what I saw for sure.
Yeah. And Hispanics aren't really, I mean, like Mexicans that I ran into in San Diego. on a professional level or social level, especially my wife had a bunch of Mexican friends actually, and so and but they're also much more family oriented. I think the Christianity aspect has something to do with that. Um,
Mhm.
the Filipinos, in fact, there are a lot of Filipinos and Filipinas working in the medical field in San Diego as well. And they often have a military connection. Somebody in their family um, is a soldier.
Yeah.
But they're also very, very social, but they're kind of clanny or clingy. They don't, I don't know that they welcome outsiders so well, but yeah, I shouldn't say that. I think that's probably just perception on my part and misperception. I don't know.
Yeah. 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 In Hawaii,
They're
there's
different.
a lot of Filipinos. In
Yeah.
Hawaii, there's a lot of Filipinos. I had a lot of Filipino friends there, but you say that they are guarded, and they're probably guarded for a reason because people have taken advantage of them for hundreds of years. you know,
Yeah, that'd probably be right.
yeah, yeah.
And I've kind of lost touch really. So I don't, and there is, well, strangely, I guess, here in Pattaya, where I live, um, there are a lot of bars, as I told you before, and some of the bars, maybe 1 out of 20 will have live music, and many of the musicians are from the Philippines because the talented Filipino musicians can make more money playing over here than they would back in the Philippines. So
Yeah.
they come over, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
so I had,
they're quite good too.
yeah, I mean, for sure. I guess depends on your
Yeah.
level of enthusiasm for listening to live music.
Uh-huh.
I don't really like even though I'll listen to a guy playing a guitar solo from afar and say, wow, he's pretty good. But then I just keep going on whatever I'm doing, keep walking or wherever I'm going. I don't really
Yeah.
feel, yeah, I'm gonna stop and watch this. It's not Jimi Hendrix after all. So
Yeah. Right. Uh-huh. So, uh, I like to do, let's say maybe just one more session, and let's do the sessions on France and our journey to to India. Uh, how's that sound?
okay, yeah, we didn't really talk too much. I'm such a blabbermouth. I guess that's fine but if you want to have some direct questions about those, that for me,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah,
And
what we do is start off in France, and we talk about our drive
yeah,
to France, and then we drove remember to Venice, and we stayed in
yeah.
and then we could
You
talk
know, the one
about.
thing,
Go ahead.
oh, I was going to say the one thing about the drive that I always blows my mind. I sometimes, like the other day I saw a thing and I had Croatia, something in the news. Croatia, where is that? And I look on the map. I go, I drove through
You
Croatia,
do exactly Yugoslavia back
And,
then. Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah.
And yeah, where is Serbia? Or
Uh-huh. And I remember with you driving with your harmonica in one hand and your steering wheel on your hand on the steering wheel. I remember that.
Oh God, did you endure that? I didn't remember that part.
Yeah,
Well, okay, let's make a date, I guess, for that.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Uh,
fine.
when's when's good for you?
Yeah. Well, pretty much any time, I guess. I don't have like this time is okay, really. 7 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Seven's perfect. And
And you're 7 in the morning in Kansas City, I take it.
yep, yep.
And
Uh-huh.
7 p.m. here. So any day is fine. What do you think as far as what day?
How about let's see.
Give it 3 or 4 days so we can I can think about it or reflect
Yeah,
on it a little. And
let's
but even next weekend if you want to do that. But
yeah. I'll
anyway, you
I'll
go ahead.
I'll schedule it later in the week, like Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. How's that?
Okay, yeah. Just let me know. You can just send me a message on
Yeah.
Messenger. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, if you figure out a time, just suggest it, and I'll give you the okay or
Yeah.
yay or nay, whatever.
Uh-huh. Anyway, this
But
was a
yeah,
good session.
mostly any time is okay. I
Uh-huh.
think
This was a good
any
session just to
day
talk
is
things
okay.
over. Yeah. I was saying,
Right,
Peter,
Joe?
this is a good session just to talk things over, where I think you and I, after all these years, we're still in the same wavelength. We pretty much have the same views on life.
Yeah, I remember reading some of your stuff on Facebook, and I didn't read much, so I didn't really. In fact, it's so hard now to use that medium for communication because you can't really read it like one post after another kind of thing anymore. At least I had a hard time following the whole story. But there were some things I thought, you know what, Rich and I really are in strong agreement on this point or that point, and so I kind of agree with you in a way that we're sort of our ways of thinking aren't so different. Even though you've been meditating obviously regularly, and I have not.
Yeah, but that still didn't make any difference. In terms of you, you still have had those same qualities. That I admired. When I knew you, what, almost 50 years ago. You still got this. We still have the same mindset about life. We know
Yeah,
at surfing is being in the water, it changes a person. And I mean, I don't have to tell you
I
that.
know.
When
Yeah.
remember when you were a kid and you had a lot of problems, you go into the ocean and you came out and they were all gone.
Yeah, you totally forget about it,
Yeah,
whatever it was.
yeah. So we bring that experience back into our daily lives. So all those memories of surfing are still there, and when we sink into them, it just makes us more wholesome, more appreciative, of nature, of life itself. It's a it's definitely a phenomena.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed how among my peers from high school, like the ones that graduated in the same class as me, the surfers seem to be living longer and healthier. They look younger. Seem to be doing fun stuff. And then there are other people that aren't aging quite so gracefully.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think surfing for me, it's been a real blessing, and I tend to think for most people it works that way, same way. Is it helps you to sort of maybe take a step back and then get a bigger picture, and think about what's really important and what you really like doing, and what's not so important anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I've been doing for about over a year now is a qigong. That's kind of probably the closest. It's a Chinese, it's not a martial art per se, but it's the closest feeling that I've got of riding a wave uh, on Earth, on land. And when you ride a wave, for me, it kind of seems like the wave is talking to you. It's alive. I mean, there's a communication that goes on. It's beyond words. And qigong for me, it's a real slow martial art. It's almost like slow motion. But in
Oh
that,
yeah, I did when I was in Hawaii. I had an evening class in Tai Chi, and I looked at that the same way.
yeah,
And even if I didn't continue to master Tai Chi, but I continued wearing those Tai Chi shoes. I used to buy them in Chinatown, wherever, you know.
Huh.
I love those little black shoes. I used to
Uh-huh.
wear them.
All right.
But yeah, it was kind of, yeah, I don't know, you probably know Tai Chi, kind of what it is. It's,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Yep, yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like what you're describing there, I guess. Yeah,
yeah,
I used to think, you know, waves are like each wave is like a girlfriend, you know, and you catch them and you ride them and then it's over and you go back and get another one, you know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there are none that are quite the same as the last one, you know, and it's just you know, I mean, it's probably not the best way to think about other people. I don't know if it's dehumanizing or other to think of a girl as a wave. You know, it's not human, but in a way, it is human. To me, it is in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. Hmm.
and I think when I think how like in relationships, people get stuck, but you have to be able to move on. You know, you
Hmm.
have to be able to just say, well, yeah, that was neat. Or it's, oh, wow, that was really bad. I really got hurt. But you have to be able to, you know, just turn around and say, well, that's the way it goes, you know, and
And some
life
waves
happens.
you dive down and you got have to hold under for two waves. You
Yeah.
know, being tossed in the wash machine. All right. Hey,
Yeah, I got,
oh, go ahead.
oh no, I just reminiscing on some of my horrendous wipeouts, you know. I went
Uh-huh.
over, the problem, I didn't surf in 20-foot waves in Hawaii, I'm sorry to say. You know, I get up to about 10 feet and I would get chicken. And then plus I had my surfboard was, I think it was 7 foot long Brewer model. It might have been a 7.6. But I think it was 7 feet long. And it's not built for big waves, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
up to intermediate surf. But I caught this wave at Sunset Beach. You know, I was out there and um, it was like 5 or 6 feet, but there was a strong offshore breeze. And some of the bigger waves, they were like 10 feet plus, and I got caught in the kind of a medium largest wave, but I couldn't drop in, you know, because the wind was holding me up at the top and holding me up until finally I just went over the falls. My surfboard went first, and then I went and landed on my surfboard, and
Oh, oh my gosh.
I had
Oh,
a compound fracture in my knee. The bones weren't broken; it was just that the wound was open to the bone, and I had to. It was it was it was pretty bad.
yeah.
It
Oh
was
gosh.
memorable. It wasn't. I don't know. But the thing I remember most was I had to swim in, you know, to shore. It's about a quarter-mile swim. Not such a big deal, except, you know, I knew I could feel the gash in my leg. There's a problem here, you know. And then I got up to the beach and went down 100 yards or so, pick up my board, and there's this blood streaming from my knee, and there were lots of people on the beach kind of watching the surf for sure, you know, and it wasn't that great, but it was, you know, interesting anyway. There were a lot of people out, and you know, and I remember I had to walk back from and then pick up my board, and then I walked about a quarter mile, you know, because I was parked out on the highway and there were so many people at the beach that day that I had to walk about a quarter mile or so to get to my car. And then I drove to the clinic. And I remember, anyway, it was bad.
Oh gosh. Oh wow.
I had another wipeout like that in Pacific Beach where I landed on my board again. I'll tell you about it, the whole thing. I had just started surfing again, you know, and I was at Pacific Beach and it was, I don't know, 4 to 5 foot or something. And I dropped in on a left. It was kind of a hot wave, you know. And then some guy dropped in about 10 feet in front of me. And, you know, I didn't get uptight. Anyways, fair enough. But I took my eye off the wave for just a second to look at look up at the guy, and make sure I wasn't gonna hit him or something, because I was, screaming down the wave, and my board just fell out from under me. I guess I was too high in the lip or something, and then I landed, and I had three skags on the board, but the center skag stabbed me in my butt,
Oh,
and
wow. Oh,
and then when I got to the beach, I couldn't walk because it was like there was nerve damage or something, and I could only drag myself on the beach, and then the lifeguard came and stuff, and then after about a half an hour, I was kind of like, oh, I'm okay to walk now, and I remember I walked back to my house, and I was trying to get this neighbor to take me to the hospital, and I couldn't get the girl. I think she thought she was kind of freaked out. She didn't even want to talk to me and stuff. And so I drove myself to a hospital in Chula Vista, which is where I was working, and I happened to know one surgeon who I thought was really good. And I went in there. I went into his office I got an appointment and went in his office. The guy looked at me. I was half crazy. You got to go to the emergency room, and so I did. And he came over to the emergency room. And the thing of it was, at that point, he started to anesthetize me, giving me lidocaine or whatever to take the painkiller before he starts sewing.
yeah.
I couldn't feel anything. He's stabbing me with a needle, and he said, Don't you feel that?" And I said, "No." And well, we have to get the neurosurgeon, to open this up a little bit and look at the sciatic nerve and make sure there isn't, nerve damage or whatever. So anyway, I got they moved me to an operation suite, and it was all but they did spinal anesthesia and zipped me up. But I had an indwelling drain, like a drain, draining the wound, and there was all this blood in my soft tissues in my leg, and it just hurt like shit for about a week or so. I remember I was, so that was another big accident. Just goes to show you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
What about you? Have you had any close calls?
Um, Only close call I had was surfing Labar. That's what kind of somewhat started me on this journey. I'm not sure if I met you or not, but there's this huge swell of Labar, and I remembered, unfortunately my board was kind of short, if you had a decent sized day at Labar. So anyway, I took off, did a bottom turn, and then my fin popped out, and next thing I knew,
Oh,
I was being, the bar near the jetty had a tremendous rip tide, so I got
uh-huh.
caught in the rip tide, and there was waves, breaking on the jetty, and I was getting dragged to the jetty. So for the first
Wow.
time, I I closed my eyes and said, "Lord, if you exist or whoever you are, you better do something pretty fast." So
Uh-huh.
I closed my eyes, and then when I closed my eyes, I saw at that time Raji. He was as a young Indian boy in a Krishna costume, and I don't think if you remember, but when we went to Ram Leela grounds, our very first day in India, we were put on stage, and this young kid, appears, in a costume with the golden crown. Well, that was the
Uh-huh.
same image. I forgot about it probably for about a year or 2 years, and when I was in, I think in Africa, uh, I finally put two and two together. So that
Yeah.
so when I made it to shore, all the surfers, came to me and said, "You were lucky to be alive." And I said, "Yeah, I am."
Yeah. I kind of remember that there was at least one day that was really huge at Le Bar, and I remember I had surfed, and then later kind of gave up on it and went and I was taking pictures in the afternoon. And anyway, as I remember, when I think back to that day, I think, yeah, I don't think I'd really met you yet. I was just because that was maybe a few days or a week or so before we actually met.
Yeah.
Yeah, near drowning experience too. After, and then it helped. I think it was when I at the time when I just started having heart problems, but I hadn't gone to see the doctor yet. But I was surfing in small surf in Pacific Beach, and the water was really cold, and I took off on a 3 foot wave maybe, and was navigating it right, very nice, but I fainted. I suddenly became lightheaded, and then I just passed out. As I started feeling lightheaded. I thought, boy, I better get out of this wave because I'm not going to make it. I'm losing it. And I just as I was pulling over the top of the wave, I just went unconscious. And it probably was about a minute later, maybe a little less than a minute. One of the other surfers, there were only a couple of us out there, but one of the other surfers came over and he kind of helped me back out of the water and up to my board, which
Wow.
was right next to me. And I wasn't like I was dead or anything. I remember being underwater and I remember swallowing water like it was air. It just seemed normal.
Yeah.
And I was swallowing water, and I can see the light up, where the sun, I mean the surface, I guess. I better try and get to the surface, and I was trying to get there, at least I imagined I was. And then the guy came and, pulled me out or something. And so anyway, that was one of about 3 episodes I had before I finally went to see a cardiologist about.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And I think that it was because I don't have a full cardiac output anymore, with the regular heart rhythm. And anyway, so that was also interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd rather die in the water if
Yeah.
it's all the same.
Uh-huh.
If I have to die, I guess I do.
Yeah.
Seems to be the prevalent notion.
Yeah. Exactly.
Theory.
All right. So yeah, I'll send
Send you
you
a
a
message.
message on what day would be good, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Rich.
All right. Hey, well, this has been nice. Just to chat over life in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
think.
might, you know what? I have a Zoom icon on my telephone, so I might try and answer on my mobile Android phone when you call, or when I try and log in next time, I guess,
Okay. Yeah. Sounds
and
good.
see. At least I'll be able to look at you. I'm seeing this one image of you. It's kind of kind of boring.
Yeah. Right. Uh-huh.
It's interesting conversation though, I must admit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. It's nice, to know about other people's lives, especially, from someone, it's kind of amazing that time period that we had together. It's still part of us today. That I'm still feeling like I'm talking to the Peter that I knew, 40 years ago. Granted, you've gone through a lot of adventures, but that's 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 wine, in the bottle. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, you probably look at your other friends that way too, as I do mine. It seems like in a certain way we don't really change that much.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah,
for example, a lot of the people that I really got along with as a kid, and a lot of them being surfers, and certainly, but it's still like we're in a relationship, as they say on Facebook. We're still friends, and things don't really change that much.
yeah,
And
yeah. Uh-huh.
so yeah, I guess you and I are still in a relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And by the way, yes, you did pay me back the money. You did.
Yeah, I'm glad now that I was really concerned. I didn't remember at all.
Yeah. Oh no. Well,
Sometimes I don't, my from the same era, my dad, when I don't know if this was after, maybe it was late. Well, it certainly was later, but there was a time when I came back from South Korea and I was trying to find a job in any hospital that would in America that would hire me. And so I was doing a job search where the jobs was mainly New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio, were the big ones. And so I had to plan, and my dad helped me out when I finally did get a chance to go and interview some of these places. I need a car, and he loaned me, quote unquote, loaned me $5,000 to buy a Volvo. I bought this Volvo that I thought was pretty cool. Turned out to be a big mistake with the rear tire, power rear view rear what are they, powertrain in the rear tires or whatever because of the snow and that. Anyway, I never pay him back, and I always, my stepmother reminded me of that painful, fact that I never did pay him back, and he had talked about it some, and maybe he was just, she implied that he was disappointed with me for not remembering, or anyway, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad I didn't stiff you anyway.
Nope, you didn't. Nope.
Okay, well, I'll let you go. I didn't mean to drag on.
Well, no, yeah, this has been great. Yeah. Well, hey, have a wonderful. Oh, it's for you. It's evening. Yeah, it's 8:20 in the evening for you. This is the beginning of my day. Yeah. All
All
right.
right, this is the beginning of my night. I already promised the girl that I would go visit her in her bar in between 9 and 10 o'clock. So I'm gonna jump in the shower and shave, and then go out and have a little bit of drink and whatever. We'll see.
All right. Hey, sounds good. You have a great evening.
Okay, and you have a wonderful, beautiful day too.
All right, Peter. All right. I'll talk to you
Okay,
later. Bye.
see you, Rich.